everybody. Welcome back.
Welcome to Home on the RNG. I've always wanted to say it that way.
And now you have.
Yay.
We're also joined by Chris Taylor.
Hi.
So, that's it. That's the whole cast. Today
It's for the best, really.
Wow.
We are going back to the Game Boy today, and we are talking about one of the few Game Boy JRPGs that exists, Sword of Hope.
Yahoo? Am I supposed to be excited about that?
I don't know what response I was expecting.
Okay.
That is a Sword of Hope, as in a sword like a weapon, not sort of hope.
I sort of hoped that Sword of Hope would be decent.
Yeah, you stole my joke. I hope you're proud of yourself.
I mean, I am a little.
Okay.
Good. Anyway, let's go ahead and move into personal history. So I have no personal history with this. I didn't even know this game existed until I saw Chris put it on his Facebook page like a year ago or 2 years ago that he picked it up at a garage sale.
Did I? No. Well, I knew about the game because I bought Sword of Hope 2 like 20 years ago. And then I found Sword of Hope 1 in just a regular game store, but it was years ago. I must have been resharing or something.
Sharing an old memory?
Must have been.
I never find anything at garage sales except like old lady clothes. Which I love, by the way. I mean,
I found several of the Final Fantasy Legends at a yard sale.
Ooh, that's
Nice.
exciting.
So Sword of Hope was developed by Kemco and published by Seika. It came out in Japan in 1989 and in the U.S. in 1991.
And it was known as Selection in Japan, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe it.
Yep.
Russ,
Selection with some kind of subtitle.
Russ, did you have any personal history?
I don't have any personal history with this game. What's funny, what Chris mentioned, is that he bought Sword of Hope 2 many years ago, and I never bought Sword of Hope 2, but that's the one that I had played before, like in the past. And so when you said that we were doing Sword of Hope for the next review, I was thinking Sword of Hope 2 in my mind. So when I played this one, I thought, well, this isn't the game that I played before. And I'm not impressed. I mean, not to have like spoilers for the end of this review, but
It's Selection Erabari Shimono.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Pardon my pronunciation.
Yeah. And I wanted to point out, I thought it was interesting that it was developed by Kemco, because I thought Kemco was a company that didn't exist until it started making all of those. It's that company that makes like 4,000 mobile RPGs every year that are very generic looking.
Yes.
And like have very weird names. And I didn't know that company existed before like the 2000s when they started making those games, but apparently they've been around since 1984.
Oh, yeah.
So I got that History of JRPGs book from Bitmap Games, or Bitmap Books, and they mention Kemco, and they actually, like, there's thousands of them. We're not going to address them all, but here's like 5 that are worth mentioning.
Yeah.
And I think I added a couple of those to our to-play list, but
well,
they're
I hate you.
they're at the end of the to-play list, so when we're 70...
Yeah, which means that we'll be like in the retirement home reviewing them. I'm probably okay with that.
Exactly.
Enough of my mental faculties will have left me.
While
at that
we're
point.
still waiting for Persona 6.
Not that I have a lot of mental faculties right now as it is, but yeah, I was interested in the fact that Kemco has been around forever.
Chris, did you have any personal history with the game?
With this game, not a whole lot. Like, I have a lot of history with Kemco, that's for sure. Because
you guys go through something together? I mean,
I guess.
Was it a rough breakup?
Are you
No.
a big As Divine Hearts fan?
Funny enough, I've played most of those games for the other podcasts that I contribute to. I'm technically the Kemco guy. So not only do I know about Kemco and X-Create, which is the company that made the As Divine series and whatnot, but they also team up with another team called Hit Point, who make much better RPGs, but less frequently. And
that's probably for the best. I would rather play a much better RPG less often.
I like them, but I will admit they are all kind of middling.
Even if they're good, I feel like they look so generic
Yeah.
that it like turns me off from even trying them.
But in the same era, when I first got a Super Nintendo and we were renting games, I was like, well, I naturally gravitated towards anything adventure-y looking. So one of the first games I played was Lagoon, which
I remember Lagoon.
Published by Kemco. Yep. Not Kemco Seika, but Kemco. I mean, Kemco is largely a publisher.
Mm-hmm.
And in Sword of Hope, they actually are also the developer, which occasionally happened. And I think what it is that they saw Shadowgate, which they had converted from an older Apple II game that was developed, on the West Hemisphere. And they were like, we could do this too, but it needs to have RPG battles. And so literally they were just like, okay, we made Shadowgate with RPG battles. By the way, it's for the Game Boy.
Right. And did they add some RPG battles?
They did.
They really felt like that was the selling point, apparently.
So let's go ahead and get into actually reviewing the game.
Yeah.
And move into story and characters. When an imprisoned dragon brainwashes a king in order to aid his escape and spread darkness across the land, only the prince, raised in secret in the woods, can save the kingdom. So I haven't done this before with any other game, and I
feel like that was 1/8 of the backstory.
Not
of this
even.
Game.
The prologue to this game, it's on the Game Boy. The prologue screen comes up and has enough content for like 3 more games.
It does go on.
I have it here. I have the entire prologue copied here, and I'm going to read it.
All right.
The setup for this game has more plot than the entirety of Arcana, by the way.
True.
What do you need to know about Arcana? You're a guy and you got cards. By the way, you are a card.
Yeah.
What a card.
Here is a legend of one chosen by destiny, who must destroy a looming darkness, returning the light of a kingdom. There was a brave king who ruled the peaceful country of Rikar, who, one day, became overwhelmed by an evil dragon. The dragon had once been bound by the hex of a sword thrust into the heart of his likeness, but the beast was able to instill strong visions of wisdom and power in the king, which brought forth the hidden evil in his heart. The dragon soon had complete control of him. The possessed king was then urged to remove the sword from the ancient painting, and when he did, darkness spilled over the land. The country declined greatly as fear in its people increased. The dragon summoned the evil power Mammon and commanded that he turn the people into trees. It was truly dark across the land, but there was a ray of hope, the birth of Prince Theo. The king grew angry at the prince, for on his left arm was a birthmark shaped like a dagger. This omen made the king rage until one day he drew his sword with intent to bring it down upon the prince. A brave knight named Pascal was astonished and risked his own life to rescue Prince Theo. Pascal then fled with the prince to the forest. For fortunately, there were 3 powerful magicians who, to prevent the evil from spreading, concealed the king and his castle underground. One of the magicians had retrieved the Sword of Hope, which had been pulled from the painting. Then 3 magicians secured themselves behind locked gates. Time has passed. The tide is turning. Now a truly important mission awaits you. On the Game Boy.
Yeah, so like half a sentence at a time.
Yeah.
Oh my god. That is 2 games right there.
They just had to wait for him to turn 16 so that he could start on his brave mission to take down his father.
An average playthrough of the game is about 11 hours, which is the same amount of time it takes to beat Quest 64.
The same amount of time it takes to read that prologue as well.
My god. That is so much story.
Yeah, that is way too much story for the game that we are then presented.
Russ, tell us about the characters.
You mean the character, Theo?
There's 3 magicians as well.
The character and Pascal and the trees that you can talk to.
Yes.
I mean, I guess I enjoyed that they followed through on the fact that people were turned into trees. I mean, that was interesting. But other than that, there's not really much to say other than Theo. This is where I realized that we were not playing Sword of Hope 2 because
The title didn't give it away?
Well, because it was just, there was no party.
Oh, you get a party in 2.
Mm-hmm. There are more people to talk about. But here it's just Theo, who I guess doesn't need a personality after you've just spent 11 hours reading that introduction.
You feel like you have all the knowledge you need of Theo?
I wanted to know anything about any of those other people mentioned in the backstory.
I gotta wonder if the instruction book has just like this full biography on him that, you know, you're supposed to keep in mind. That's usually where they hid that stuff.
Mm-hmm. His favorite dessert is pudding.
Oh boy.
His blood type is AB.
They do blood types a lot, I've found.
Japanese like blood types.
It's kind of, as I understand in Japan, it's a little bit like an like what we consider astrological star signs. It's just like some personality sorting BS.
Oh, I couldn't date a type A blood type. You know what they're like.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't even know my blood type.
I don't either.
I only know mine because we had to find out when my dad was real sick if we could donate my liver.
Ah, gotcha.
I'm
O negative, which is the good one. I'm a giver.
Yeah, my mom is, so they want her blood real bad. Yeah.
I'm a Libra, but my blood type is Sagittarius.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go ahead and talk about the combat system.
And what a combat system it is. Did they want to do anything with this game besides just make you fight enemies over and over and over again?
I seem to remember there was a magic list.
Yeah.
Actually, so the magic, each spell has 4 different spell levels. And level 1 a level 1 spell will occasionally hit the person who casts it instead.
We love to see it.
Sucks until it happens to an enemy. And then you're like, haha. Level 2 always hits the enemy. Level 3 hits you for a little bit of damage and all the enemies for a lot of damage. And level 4 only hits all the enemies for a lot of damage.
I mean, I haven't seen it been done before. Or since, probably for a good reason.
Yeah, I
guess you can have like AoE effects and
This is the first JRPG I've ever played where I went out, got in the first combat, and had my butt handed to me. Mm-hmm. And I killed myself trying to cast a fireball spell.
I mean, what do you expect when you've been raised in the forest by an old man and a bunch of talking trees?
I sort of hope this fireball hits the enemy.
When you encounter more than one type of enemy, sometimes they will fight each other as well as you. So, like, the enemies aren't all in the same team.
So that's where Final Fantasy 13 got it from. The wonderful Final Fantasy 13.
Oh, I was trying to remember what the hell with 13. It's the hallway one. Got it.
Yeah, the one where you run down a hallway for 40 hours. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the enemies are fighting each other. I guess they got all their inspiration for that game from Sword of Hope. Actually, they probably played Sword of Hope, and they're like, why do you have to explore? Walk around in all these different directions. Why don't we just have enemies fight each other and you run in a straight line? Anyway.
So in terms of actual combat, it's basically Dragon Quest 1, except there can be up to 3 enemies at a time. That's it. That's the combat.
Yeah. So Dragon Quest 2.
And when you cast Hurt, then it's not specific.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to hurt if I cast this.
Right. The thing that really bothered me about the combat is, first of all, it took me a hot minute to figure out that, like, the little dot on the screen where you move is supposed to show you if, like, an enemy encounter is in that area.
But it's not 100% reliable.
But it does not. No, it actually doesn't do anything. And then you can be, like, exploring a screen, like, clicking on things, and then it's like, oh, suddenly you're in a battle again. Like, they really tried to pad out this game with just fighting battles in a battle system that is not doing anything interesting.
So, there's actually... The random encounters in this game suck. Mm-hmm. There's 3 types of random encounters in this game. One is where an enemy will block your path going to the next screen. Mm-hmm. You will try to go somewhere, and that's what the black dot is supposed to represent. There's an enemy in your way. You fight them. And then you can try again where there might be a new enemy in your way, and you have to fight them. The second one is sometimes you will arrive on a new screen. Oh, good, I successfully got to the new screen, and immediately get into a battle. Sometimes you will be exploring the interactive options you have on a screen, and you will get attacked. It is possible, and it happened to me, to have 5 combats in a row without moving to the next screen.
Yeah. That seems pretty common. And when we say screen,
yeah,
we mean a tiny little, what feels like single pixel dot in the left-hand corner of the screen. There's like a picture of a tree or something.
So I want to move into innovations and discuss that. Yeah. Do we have anything left to say about combat in this game?
No. I don't know whose idea it was that this was going to make a point-and-click adventure more interesting.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about innovations. So, as we've alluded to, the look of this game is very different from normal, and I'm going to kind of hijack this a little bit to do the history of video games. In the beginning, there were text-only adventure games.
I'm just going to take a nap.
Zork, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, these sorts of it's all text. Leather Goddesses of Phobos, another classic example.
What about the Leather Goddesses of Deimos?
There's not one, but there is a Leather Goddesses of Phobos 2 that is not a text adventure.
Okay.
And then eventually, of course, thanks to Sierra and Haunted Mansion, I think, we developed computer graphics for video games.
You really are telling the history.
Mm-hmm. But there's an in-between step. And anybody who's played Deja Vu or The Uninvited on NES or any of the Legend Interactive games, Spellcasting 101, Eric the Unready, the Superhero League of Hoboken on the PC, is familiar with this, where there is now graphics. Kind of. It really borrows heavily from like Windows 3.1 when you would have individual windows all over the screen. And in the upper right will be the scene you're looking at, taking up maybe a fourth of the screen if you're lucky. And it's a static image of the environment that you're in. On the left side is a column of potential actions that you can take and objects that you can interact with in the scene that you're in. The bottom third of the screen is the running commentary. So if you looked, it's just the description of what's there. And then there's also going to be a compass crammed in somewhere to let you know which directions you can leave the screen from. It's a busy look.
But I would say that in a game like Deja Vu or like Shadowgate, it works.
It mostly worked when it was used on PC and the NES, but it's not a style that stayed around for long.
No.
It is very busy, and it communicates a lot of unnecessary detail all the time.
And it's maybe not a screen that works on the Game Boy.
Yeah, who the hell looked at, okay, we got 6 windows of information. Let's put them on a tiny portable screen. It really is, oh my God, the images are so small you can't see what you're dealing with.
I mean, I played this on an emulator. Can you imagine playing it on an actual Game Boy?
I did.
So you can.
I can imagine. With my memory.
Did you have to use your Game Boy Light and magnifier?
I had a backlit Game Boy by that point, but yeah, that would have been a nightmare. But I mean, everything was a nightmare with a little worm light or whatever. You just made do with it.
So
how did we survive?
How did
I had the magnifier with the light?
Yeah, I had the magnifier with the light too.
Nice.
That's how we made it through the 80s and 90s.
Death in this game is pretty negligible. I mean, when you die, you're teleported back to the starting house. Your health and MP are set to 20. But all you have to do is to walk 2 screens to the right, and there's a guy who will heal all of your stats up for a set number of gold, and then you go back to where you're going. So grinding becomes a matter of go as far as you can, die, repeat until you get further, like Quest 64.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of hidden objects in this game, like a lot of hidden items, and you can't find them unless you look grass in every scene, look tree, look mud, and there is no hint or indication of when that will actually get you something, which is really obnoxious.
I always like to look in the mud.
You know, it would help if they had like maybe a screen showing the scene that you're in so that you can like maybe see a clue or something like that.
Instead of generic forest scene number 73.
Right.
Trees. Yeah. Oh, look, more trees.
There is a maximum gold limit of 255 pieces of gold.
Oh boy.
I wonder how that happened.
Zelda rules.
Right.
But after the halfway point in the game or so, you no longer need gold for anything but healing. So it's kind of pointless.
That's a lot of RPGs, though.
It has a password system. It's a Game Boy. For me, the idea of a Game Boy or any handheld is it needs to be something that can be turned off at a moment's notice. You're out on the go with it. I'm picturing you're the kid playing it in the car on a road trip, right? In order to save your progress in this game, you have to teleport to the shaman and ask the shaman for your password, which is a very long series of symbols that you will then have to write down. So, you're in the car, and your dad says, all right, turn it off. We're going in to get something to eat. Hold on just a couple minutes, Dad. I got to finish this fight, teleport back to the shaman, and then can you lend me a pen and paper? I'm going to need a pen and paper before I can turn this off.
Because we don't have camera phones in this era.
We certainly don't.
Unless it is this era, in which case that scenario becomes way more hilarious.
It is inexcusable for a portable game not to just have a save and quick save function.
Well, at least a portable RPG, certainly.
Yeah, anything that's going to take you... I was talking with my friend Rachel the other day because we've been playing some old NES games. Anything that takes longer than 90 minutes needs a save or password system. And for a portable system, a password system is unacceptable. This is the hill I will die on.
And not to mention, doesn't it have it has weird symbols in it.
Yeah.
Like Greek letters, or what look like Greek letters.
Yeah, it's not even just letters and numbers. Right. It is symbols.
So you're drawing the omega symbol in your notebook.
And then finally, I wasn't sure where this would go in the review, but innovations is where everything goes that we don't know what the hell we're doing with. The last dungeon in this game is awful. This is one of the very few games I was not able to beat. I could not beat the game.
Going forward, I'm just going to take your word for everything that you're saying.
You didn't get
I
to
did
the
not
last
get
dungeon?
to the last dungeon, no. I understood what this game was doing before I got to the last dungeon.
The last dungeon is incredibly long and complex with random teleporting rooms. They're not labeled.
Great.
You just step into them and whoop. And there's an enemy called a druid. The druids are practically immune to all physical and magical attacks unless you've leveled up enough to have the most powerful spell in the game, which is a lot of leveling. I was nowhere close, and I was doing fine in all the dungeons, and then I stepped in here and met the druids. I went online to look at walkthroughs. How do I deal with druids? And they say, every walkthrough I found said if you encounter a druid, run away. If you encounter 2 or 3 druids in a party, you're going to die. Period. So it really is trying to get through this final dungeon, which is long and complex, and hoping the RNG is on your side and you don't encounter this one very common enemy throughout the dungeon. It's not uncommon for JRPGs to have a huge difficulty spike in the final dungeon, but this is absurd. I can't get through 3 screens of this final dungeon, and the dungeon before it walked right through, no problem.
Was the final spell called Hurt More?
No, but that's how I felt.
Yeah.
It's no wonder they only ported the second game to the 3DS.
The last dungeon ruins this game. It was an okay experience. It was not enthralling me, but it was fine. It was a perfectly acceptable portable JRPG experience until that final dungeon where it's like, no, you can't do this.
Definitely wasn't enthralling me. Not after I read that prologue and then saw what I was presented with after.
Yeah, it's a strain to play this game visually. And then it's a strain to beat the final dungeon mentally. Did we have anything else we wanted to talk about before we bring in our musical expert?
I'm glad this game is out of my life and I can go back to confusing it with Sword of Hope 2.
Well, then let's talk music.
Oh, I have to intro myself. Hello, I am a music liker. This is okay. So here's the thing about Sword of Hope 1. If you start playing this game and you recognize the name Kemco Seika, then you'll be like, oh, okay, this sounds like Shadowgate. Like, this makes perfect sense. So the game itself does not have any credits, and therefore there's no officially stated composer for the game. However, looking at Kemco Seika and looking at their other conversions and original games and things like that, and just listening to the sound, then you can tell it's one Hiroyuki Masuno, who basically was like Kemco's guy in terms of like their 8-bit and on through some of the 16-bit stuff, like, you know, Draken and Dragon View, but going on as early as, like, you know, Ghost Lion and, again, the Shadowgate, Deja Vu, Uninvited games. So his 8-bit sound is very much defined by a little trick that composers used back then, where they would make the melody have an echo effect. Because what they would do is, you know, because a lot of the 8-bit music at the time was 2 square waves, a triangle wave, and a noise channel. So your square waves, like where your melodies come from, and they can sound identical. So a trick that composers used is they would play one note on the square wave and then the exact same note a little later, thus creating what we guitarists call a delay effect. You'll know the delay effect in practice because it's like all shoegaze and indie rock uses that on their guitars, and like U2's The Edge sounds like he's playing a wall of guitars when he's just playing like a dinky little chord, but he has a delay pedal that's sending it into like the stratosphere. And so this is kind of the edge of video game music back then, because everything that this guy did, you know, it wasn't a whole lot of harmonies because he would dedicate both of the melody channels to making an echoey effect on everything, and then he would just play it in a basic arpeggio. And yeah, that was basically the sound. I don't really have to describe it too much because if you've heard Shadowgate, if you've heard Deja Vu, you know, any of that kind of stuff, Ghost Lion is also like this, you'll know the sound, and if you don't know the sound, then I just described it, and it doesn't make any sense.
Also, we keep mentioning the Uninvited, Deja Vu, and Shadowgate. I learned recently you can get the 3 of them as a very cheap bundle on the PS4. It's like, it was like 99 cents when I got it for the 3 NES games. So if you want to see this graphical effect done decently, this graphical layout.
I enjoyed me some Shadowgate and some Deja Vu back in the day.
Yeah, I enjoyed. I remember in Deja Vu particularly. We're just having memories of better games now. Yeah. There's a mugger who tries to steal your money, and you encounter him 3 times in the game. And the first 2 times, you can avoid him by just punching him in the face. Right? The first time you punch him in the face, he goes away. The second time he shows up with a black eye, you can punch him in the face and walk away. The third time, he's got like the bandage over the nose, the black eye, and if you try to punch him in the face, he shoots you when you die.
Nice. Yeah, let that be a lesson to you. I don't know.
Yeah, only punch them twice.
Yeah.
At least in America.
So, all said and done, like, the Sword of Hope soundtrack, it's pretty decent. I like it. I mean, I like all these kind of soundtracks. I love the effect, all of Hiroyuki Masuno's work is, like, awesome to me. The echo effect does actually fill out the sound really well. But, Sword of Hope is mostly mellow. Battle themes are fairly exciting, but most everything else is just this kind of, a slow arpeggio with like kind of the remaining soundtrack, tracks available, filling out kind of a counter melody. It's very chill as a soundtrack, I'd say. But, nothing super impressive or anything.
I wonder how the composers felt back in the day when they were like, oh, these people made this other piece of crap game and we have to make some music for it, and we're going to do a really good, decent to great job.
I think that what it was is that, they didn't get to see it until it was basically done. So they were just like, here's music for a forest, here's music for a cave, here's music for a town. And, then at the end they were like, oh, this is what that music's going towards.
Sort of Hope. Yeah. I'm so excited my name is on this.
So it wasn't, though.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Please don't put my name on this.
Maybe he paid for the anonymity.
Ooh, he was like, look, you can have the music for free. Just
don't tell anybody.
Keep my name out of it.
Call me when you're making Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle.
Or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and move on to our final thoughts then and put this entire thing behind us.
Well, I mean, my final thought is that I wish we'd played Sword of Hope 2, because that's what I remembered in my mind. I didn't finish this game. It was definitely an experience, but I will probably not be playing it again, and I give it 1 tree turned into a human out of 5.
I haven't beaten this game either, but I do plan on going through it at some point, because I really I would like to play it and Sword of Hope 2 kind of back to back, but that's for another day. That could never happen. So I don't have a rating system. I'm just going to say it's cool. Check out the soundtrack.
Before the final dungeon, I was planning on giving the game a B. I found it to just be it was a good time waster, right? It was interesting because it was different from most JRPGs, and it didn't require a lot of thought. Like, it was really just a thing to pass time with, and I was kind of enjoying it for that.
That is a glowing endorsement so far. Time waster, you don't really have to think about it.
Yeah, the grinding was just very like, I'll watch a TV show while playing this in the background. It's fine. But after that final dungeon, I have to give it a C. I hate that none of us were able to finish this game, but, sometimes you just can't.
I mean, C is good for Kemco.
Yeah, I feel like I'm being nice to it by giving it a C, because I did enjoy it up to that final dungeon.
Take that as Divine Hearts, which is the only Kemco name I actually know the game that I know the name of.
Now, Russ, if they want to play Sword of Hope 1, where can they play it?
I mean, I guess you can get a Game Boy and play it on that. I am not familiar with the re-release history of Sword of Hope.
There is none.
Russ, you know the re-release history of every game we've ever done.
Like I keep saying, I thought we were playing Sword of Hope 2, so I do not know.
All right. Well, before we sign off, we can go around and do some plugs for other media, other things that people would like. I have gotten into the TikTok lately, and I wanted to mention 3 TikTok people that I really like real quick.
Mercy.
So, and I'll put these in the description so you don't have to worry about spelling these. If you're curious about looking up my TikTok people, you can just look in the description for the episode. Flicker Spark writes skits where she plays Death and all of the other characters, Death's receptionist Martha, and all of the various people and gods that she encounters along the way. The dialogue is written to go 100 miles a minute. It's Death at Stars Hollow, essentially. I find it really enjoyable. Mr. Kurtwise mostly he acts out D&D skits silently, and he plays all of the characters with different costumes and prop changes to be the different party members. And it usually results in the bard just busting a move, and it's very enjoyable. And then there's Megan Seafree. She just dresses up as a pirate and has more fun doing it than I've ever had with anything in my life. And it's just fun to watch somebody having that much fun dressing up as a pirate.
These are the sort of moments that make me feel old, because I kind of think, what is happening to our society? We're just, for fun, watching a woman dress up as a pirate.
She's having a really good time.
I'm sure she's having a great time. No disparage against her. I've not seen these TikToks, but I'm new to the TikTok game.
Russ just signed up 30 minutes ago.
I really did. Yeah.
Did you have any media that you would like to...
I'm not going to plug anything on the Sword of Hope episode.
You want to have your name taken off
yes, much like Hiroyuki, I want my name taken off the Sword of Hope episode. And I'm going to save my recommendations for a couple of upcoming episodes of much better games.
I'm going to shout out Kemco itself and say that you should play all of the games that they have available now, a sample of which include Archlion Saga, Everdark Tower, Alvastia Chronicles, Antiquia Lost, Armed Emeth, As Divine Dios, As Divine Hearts, As Divine Hearts 2, As Divine Chimera, Bonds of the Sky, Citizens Unite, Earth X Space, Crystal Ortha, Dragon Sinker, Fern's Gate, Dragon's Odyssey, Legend of the Tetrarchs, Meridian Tavern Story, Patty and the Hungry God, Mom Hid My Game, Mom Hid My Game 2, Monster Viator, Overrogue, Revenant Saga, Seek Hearts, Sephirothic Stories, and Sword of Elpisia.
Very nice. I didn't know that As Divine was a whole series there.
Yeah.
I might have to jump into those. I also didn't realize that these games are on the Switch.
Yeah, I've got 25 of them right here.
Very nice.
You can't see it at home, guys, but while Russ was talking about not wanting to plug anything, Chris pulled out his Switch and just started listing off things from his library.
Well, I have the rest of my summer planned now.
So, since I mentioned earlier the Bitmap Books History of JRPGs, I do have the notes for the Kemco games that they recommend as particularly good. Dragon Sinker, Dark Gate, if you like job class games. Alvasta Chronicles, if you like recruiting characters. And Rusted Imrith for... it's basically a post-apocalyptic series.
I want to quickly echo that Alvastia Chronicles shout out. They talk about how many characters you can recruit. They also should mention the type of characters you can recruit. You can have a dresser as in your party.
Oh, nice.
Like a chest of drawers.
Nice.
It also says that your party can contain up to 13 people.
Yes, but you don't want the people. You want the weird things. You can have a houseplant in your party. It's amazing.
That's nice. Okay. Yeah, seriously, summer planned.
There you go.
As Divine Summer plus whatever that one is where you can recruit a dresser.
Alvastia Chronicles.
Alvastia Chronicles.
All right. So we will see you next time when we are talking about a cross that's been chronoed.
Ooh. Yay. This is why I delayed my plug until our next episode.
You want to talk about it in the Chrono Cross review?
Yes.
Russ may not be happy with me in the Chrono Cross review, so stick around.
I understand
it's
criticism
be a fun one.
of Chrono Cross. It's fine. It bounces off of me. It's like water off a duck's back.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys there. Thank you.
Bye.
Home on the RNG is a presentation of Mad Centaur Productions. You can find Jeff on YouTube at youtube.com/Centaur Productions or on Twitter at Jeff Centaur. You can find Russ on Twitter at RussMac25. You can find Chris on Twitch at twitch.tv/LiarExaggerate or on Twitter at EnrichFlavor. Thank you for listening, and remember to save your game before powering off this podcast.